All right, I'd like to start the North St. Paul City Council meeting. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. Mary, if you could take roll.
Councilmember Thorson? Here. Councilmember Peterson? Here. Councilmember Walzak? Here. Councilmember Sonic? Here. Mayor Furlong?
Here. Quorum is present. This time, a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
So moved by Councilmember Peterson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Sonic. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. So at this time, we have a special night here for Dr. Broman. We have a presentation, and I would like to, maybe I'll read it out in front here. So it's a privilege to be able to do this tonight. Although it wasn't my idea, you have a lot of people who are supportive of you these past years, many years. And they were I was privileged to be able to read this to you tonight, but it's from them. So at this time, there's a proclamation for you. Proclamation in recognition of Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr., City of North St. Paul. Whereas on December 5th, 1935, Harold Broman was born in Duluth, Minnesota. And whereas in 1954, Harold Broman graduated from Fond du Lac High School, and whereas in 1957, Harold Broman graduated from Pre-Medicine University of Minnesota, Pre-Medicine of, I gotta get these glasses off. I'm seeing double here. Pre-Medicine from the University of Minnesota in a combined program, where the bachelor's and medical degree were combined in 6 years, and whereas on September 19th, 1959, he married Margaret Ann Rahm, and whereas on July 15th, 1960, daughter Mary Jean Broman Olson was born while Harold Broman was interning at Bethesda Hospital, and whereas in 1960, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. graduated from medical school, University of Minnesota. And whereas in 1961, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. entered into medical practice at North St. Paul Medical Center, and his career in the medical field spanned 35 years. And whereas in 1962 to 1964, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. served in the Air Force. And whereas in 1963, daughter Kirsten Joy Broman King was born, whereas in 1965, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. returned to medical practice at North St. Paul Medical Center. There's a lot of whereas here. Whereas in 1966, daughter Betsy Lynn Broman Webb was born, and whereas on November 30th, 1967, the family bought a house on Silver Lake in North St. Paul, previously having a house on North 2nd Street, and prior to that, renting across from Silver Lake Park. Whereas on April 1st, 1970, son Harold Robert Broman III, Gus, was born, and whereas from 1972 to 1976, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. served as Assistant Professor of Medicine, University of Minnesota. Harold assisted residents at North St. Paul Clinic to provide practical experience to medical students. And whereas from 1977 to 1978, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. served as Chief of Staff at St. John's Hospital. And whereas from 1979 to 1983, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. served as President of Minnesota Medical Board of Examiners, appointed by Governor Al Quie. And whereas in 1982 founded the first North St. Paul prayer breakfast with Mayor Bill Sandberg, Ray Enright, and Chris Langlet. And whereas in 1986 to 1990, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. served on the Health Resources Board to begin building of St. John's Hospital in Maplewood, Minnesota. Whereas in 1996, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. retired from practicing medicine, having delivered over 1,400 babies during his tenure at the North St. Paul Medical Center. And whereas from 1997 to 2000, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. traveled on medical mission trips to Mongolia and China. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. receives the highest commendation for the manner in which he has lived his life, served his community, and been a shining example to the residents of North St. Paul. Dated the 17th day of December 2019. Signed by myself, the mayor. So thank you. Like I said, a lot of whereas in here. So if I could present that to you. Sure. If you want to come up. And we also have a plaque for you. And it reads,
Whereas.
what's that? Take it off. Whereas. Let's take it out.
Well, you gotta hurry, because Scott said I only have 2 hours.
Oh, that's it? Okay. So Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr., the city of North St. Paul hereby recognizes Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. on 35 years of dedicated care and compassion provided to citizens in and around our community. We are grateful for your family medical practice at the North St. Paul Medical Center. The impact on others because of the care you provided has been evident for years. Thank you for your commitment to the community and for welcoming over 1,400 new beings to this world. On behalf of the City Council, city staff, and all our citizens, thank you for your dedication. Presented this 17th day of December, 2019.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say a couple words?
I will stay under 2 hours. I thought it might be interesting to let the people know why I happened to choose to come to North St. Paul. And when I was at Bethesda looking for places to practice, this opportunity came. And what I was interested in is to be in a place, I don't want to turn my back on you. I wanted to be in a place where I could live my life in front of all my patients and my neighbors, and show that, and I wanted them to know that I was a consistent person all the time, and give grace to those who I could, and I wanted to be a consistent Christian in these days, and we began the prayer breakfast and encouraged others to come with that. And so any of those emphases were things that I had thought about in the past, and I have appreciated the goodness of this community. It's been a good place to live, a good place to be. And we haven't left yet. We just went south for the winter. We went 2 miles down to the shores of Lake Phelan. and so we're not out of here completely yet, but we sure are thankful for the community and proud to be part of it. And thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. So does anybody else have any stories at all about?
Yes, I have.
Why don't you go ahead?
I like to talk. The Bromans and the Norgards are pretty close, I think. They understood one another, and what you said about North St. Paul, they would say the same thing. Eric Harold was born in 1979 down at St. John's. And remember when I said Eric Harold Peterson, and I said, Doc, it's not after you. It's after my I think you got a chuckle out of it. So I do appreciate that, and he turned out really well, and thank you for your wonderful family and just being a staple in our communities. God bless you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there needed to be another whereas here, that in the spring of 1985, Dr. Harold R. Broman Jr. traveled through Europe with the North St. Paul High School Choir. And I think half of us got sick on that trip, and he gave us all Alka-Seltzer. And that seemed to work. After the trip, as a thank you, we gave him a giant jar of Alka-Seltzer, so he replenished his stock. But it was wonderful to have Dr. Broman there with us on that trip. And Gus was there to remember that trip very fondly. We had a wonderful time there, but it was great to have our hometown doctor there with us.
Anybody else have anything?
And I will agree. Dr. Broman has been more than a doctor. I mean, he's a community member. Dr. Broman and Margaret, as we all know, whether it be swimming at their lake, changing in the bathhouse, things throughout the community, public works time. Margaret coming out with treats for crews working. The Bromans have just always been a rock hard staple and a real part of the community. Thank you.
Well, at this time, maybe we'll take a 5-minute recess and we'll get a picture, a group picture. How is that? That'd be good? All right.
Mom and Dad, why don't you stand right here? Dad, why don't you and Mom stand right here in the center, and we will just all make ourselves go around you, maybe.
Well, that's the empty box, never mind.
Yeah, Dad, you'll hold
might
your
want-
plaque though. All right. We have to behave? Yes. If anybody wants to just kind of get around, and then.
Mom, you on this side.
Really want to be front and center, but
Go back so you can stand back a little.
thanks. Forward and takes. All right. Look at the cameras. It's a happy day. All right. Here we go. That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Definitely stopped it.
All right. Can my 4 kids just stand right here, Margaret, too?
I'm gonna do it right now, Jan. It's so good. I could eat that whole bag.
Oh, yeah, it'll be gone tonight.
Rick would eat it. I say me one, he'd have it all day.
You guys were on my paper.
Yeah, I don't recall ever offering any to David.
When I was, the first time I went to collect, your mom said, "What kind of candy do you like?" She's like, "Do you like Jolly Ranchers?" So then every month when I came to collect,
Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right. This goes with it, the proclamation. Thank you.
Seeing it. He's not got it. Nope, he does not. Are there any other cables?
Technical difficulties?
All right. I'll figure something out.
Okay. Like to restart the meeting. So at this time, we have the consent agenda in front of us. It is the November 19th, 2019 workshop meeting minutes, the November 19th, 2019 regular meeting minutes, December 3rd workshop meeting minutes, December 3rd regular meeting minutes, general accounts payable of $1,524,017.17, the HRA accounts payable of $98.75, the city hall closure on Christmas Eve for Santa to come. Where we get that, Santa? Okay. 2020 equipment purchase and declare surplus property, Anchor Block Commons improvements, cooperative agreement with the DNR. So at this time, if anybody want to pull anything from the consent, they can do so at this time. If not, all those in favor of the consent agenda? No, motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved by Councilmember Sonic.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thorson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. This time, we have the meeting open to the public, and I have nothing. Wow. Yeah, I'd just like to reach out to Don Beanick, who's one of our regular people that is part of the audience, he got pneumonia, so he is in the hospital at this time. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Don at this time. But I guess he is doing better. He is in Bethesda Hospital now, and he's doing much better. So we have no public hearings. So at this time, city business action items and recommendation, City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Our first item that we have up is the Anchor Block North primary and final plat for the Anchor North site that we've been continuing to work on and develop. Let me see. Bear with me, I've given Morgan my computer for our technical difficulties that they're having.
Page 86 on ours, that's where the resolution is.
Gotta find the plat. Morgan, do you have the, doing anything on the plat?
We have this new technology, and we're still trying to work out the bugs.
The plat. Anchor Block plat. Should be in there. Yeah. I don't, you have the plat? Yeah, go ahead.
This is the start of that.
You want to work through this, Morgan? Can you take this?
Want me to present?
Yeah, present that. Okay, Morgan will take that. We can work on that plat, on the Anchor Block plat that we've,
I left you in about 3% battery, so speed through it there.
The alarms will start going off. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you, Scott. Sorry to the public for the technical difficulties. Get that ironed out sooner or later here. So this item here before you tonight is the approval for the Anchor Block North preliminary and final plat. The city is applying for its own preliminary and final plat for the Anchor Block North property, which is currently under contract for deed, with the city playing the role of the developer of the property. Plat includes 3 new lots and a new public road, Anchor Drive, which cuts through the north portion of the Anchor Block site north of the Gateway Trail. And that new roadway connects McKnight Road with a new access point, new traffic signal, per approvals by Ramsey County and also on the east side of the site with 3rd Street North. This plat and property subdivision with the 3 lots is being created to facilitate future redevelopment of these 3 parcels in a MU3 corridor mixed-use district. City is, as a part of city improvement projects in preparation for redevelopment, is facilitating future installation of utilities and the roadway infrastructure. Anchor Drive, as I mentioned, a new roadway. Planning Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval of the preliminary and final plat based on staff report and findings, information submitted again with the city playing kind of that role of applying for its own plat approval. So with that, the recommendation of staff is City Council conditionally approve the proposed preliminary and final plat with the conditions as outlined in the attached resolution and staff report. With that, I'll stand for any questions the council might have.
Any questions for Morgan? Not motion in front of us, resolution approving a preliminary and final plat for the property commonly known as Anchor Block North, 2300 McKnight Road North.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Sonic.
I'll second your honor.
Second by Councilmember Walzak. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. City Manager Dudek.
Yep. Mayor, the next item that we have is our animal licensing ordinance, and this was, if you mentioned at our last council meeting, we adopted the fee schedule, which in that time, we removed the licensing fees for the dog and cat licenses. So this brings us back to update our ordinance to be reflective of that. So again, we've removed the license requirements for dogs and cats and associated content for that. We have left in place the requirement for the kennel license, but we've removed the fee associated with it. We only have a handful of kennel licenses, but because of the kennel licenses and requirements for the maximum number of animals and sanitary issues, we've opted to leave that within our ordinance, but we've removed the fee for that. It's really the gist of the changes within the ordinance. We've also left in the ordinance the requirement for the dangerous dog. That stays part of the ordinance, and a fee stated and associated with that within the fee schedule. So if you have any questions, otherwise we'd recommend approval of the updated ordinance.
Any questions for City Manager? If not, motion for an ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 95 pertaining to the licensing of domestic animals.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Thorson.
I'll second your honor.
Second by Councilmember Walzak. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. City Manager Dudek.
Next item, Mayor and Council, is the History Cruise Car Show. So we've been having some ongoing meetings with that and planning for the 2020 car show. As recent as last week, we had a public meeting that we held here at City Hall. We had sent out mailings to, I think, over 300 direct mailings, and also posting on our website and that to try to take input for the car show for the 2020 season. Due to the construction that's potentially coming in the downtown with the near the old City Hall site, road reconstruction on 7th Avenue, and on Margaret around that construction, and then also the proposed construction on 7th Avenue between 1st Street and 3rd Street. So with all that said, there's definitely going to be the need to have to shift the car show, likely east of Margaret. So what was proposed, that we were proposing, is to move the car show or extend the car show on 7th Avenue to the east up to Henry Street. And it would not be a hard move. We would keep that flexible. So we would continue to have the car show from 1st Street all the way to Henry Street during the times that we can. So we would kind of move with construction. And our goal with that, we want to keep it open to as many of the vendors and our current businesses in the downtown so that we're not moving the car show away from them anytime that we don't have to. We have Bob here this evening, our car show president. Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or any?
council and you, Scott, it'll work. It'll be different. We'll make it work.
But I will say that the meeting that we had, we did not have any negative comments on it. There was, obviously the concerns of the construction and those types of things, but we've taken input from residents and business owners alike that were at the meeting. We had about, I don't know, probably 35 to 40 people that attended the meeting. So it was well attended, taking all that input, and I think the car show is very important to us in North St. Paul, and it's something that we're very committed to, and I think everyone on all fronts will work to make it happen and make it a good show.
And this is just a temporary fix, so.
It's a temporary fix, but it also could be temporarily permanent. We'll see what happens with it. If expanding the show, if it's something that's beneficial and works out, it could be a permanent change. I can tell you that going to the east, the Legion and those are very happy with the change and to move it down to that end. And we're not moving it away from people on the east end. We want to maintain that also. So we'll see how this year goes. This is the 26th year of the car show. This is a long-standing community event.
Any other questions for city manager? If not, the resolution is motion for a resolution approving the 2020 memorandum of agreement between the City of North St. Paul and the North St. Paul History Cruisers to conduct 2020 Friday night car shows.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Thorson.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Peterson. Any other discussion?
That also includes the Fall Roundup Parade,
It does.
so we should,
The fall roundup parade is included in the agreement that we have with the History Cruisers.
And that can be all in the same.
It's all in the same. It's all part of the same agreement.
should mention it
Oh,
because
okay.
because it is something that they sponsor.
Sure. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So Bob, you got your, now you got your work cut out for you, so. Good. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. City manager.
Mayor, next item, we have the Fire Relief Association pension increase request this evening. We have members of the fire department here this evening to give any input on that. But basically, we're looking for an increase in the annual pension dollar amount that's currently at $5,200 and looking to increase that effective January 1st to $5,700 per year of service. And again, this is something that's it's an important piece for us for recruitment and retention in order to remain, you need to remain in good standing, have 10 years of continued service for vesting. But, our goal is to keep people around for 20-plus years. And this is an important piece to maintain that recruitment and retention piece. I can tell you that the $52 to going to even the $5,700, North St. Paul, we're well below our neighbors around us and very appreciative for our members that do the work they do. And so my recommendation would be to approve this request.
Any questions for city manager, or we do have some representation here from the fire department?
A little bit.
Ms. Jason. If not,
I think they're here just in case we don't approve it.
yeah, come after us. So the motion for a resolution authorizing an increase in the firefighter pension from $5,200 per year to $5,700 per year. So moved by Councilmember Thorson.
I'll second your.
Second by Councilmember Walzak. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Come on up, come on.
Who is that guy talking back there?
Sorry. I thank you, and the members of the North St. Paul Fire Department thank you. With me tonight, obviously, Deputy Chief Kalis, and our board members as well, Captain Scott Weber, who's our president of the Relief Association, Chris Hearden, who's our vice president, and newly appointed trustee Giacomo DiGiacomo of the fire department. We try to keep people involved and fill these positions on the board, and they're doing a good job. And again, thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you guys all for what you do. So, Councilmember Sonic.
So just to be clear, these guys, I mean, it's a $5,700 per year of service. So if they are in there for 10 years, then they got 57,000.
You get 60% of that.
They get 60% of that
You only get 100% after 20 years.
after 20 years.
And you can't collect it until you turn 50.
And how much do they make per year while they're in the fire department?
$10
Go ahead, Jay.
for a call.
Yeah. So it's like,
Right now, our firefighter two, so the majority of our firefighters are earning $13.50 an hour, and it's based on the amount of calls that they go on throughout the year. So, everybody's a little bit different on what they earn, but they do, like Scott said, they have to remain in good standing. So what that means is they have to respond to a minimum of 25% of what we call our station all calls or fire calls.
so basically, all the years of service that you're working, you get paid gas money. And so, and if you work 10 years, then you get 60% of that. So it's just, I mean, it's nothing, so it's,
So, and the dollar amount per hour is 1 hour. I mean, virtually, because, when you're getting up at 3 o'clock in the
Right.
morning, going to a medical call, that's usually an hour call. It's not like you're getting up and you're getting a 3-hour time and a half
Right.
position. You're getting that $13 at
Right.
3 o'clock in the morning.
so it's really nothing. So this is an easy one, so thanks for everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
no problem.
Bless you all.
I will say, I think we have a great group of motivated firefighters, and it proved last week. We were called to assist Oakdale Fire in the middle of the night at 12:30 a.m. when it was 5 below out. And we had, along with myself, a full truck of 7 people that worked for 4.5, 5 hours. And they enjoy serving and doing what they do. Granted, it's a story to tell, but, and we had a half a station here of people that were greeting us and helping cleaning up afterwards. So we have a dedicated bunch of firefighters right now, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Can I just tell you one little story?
Oh, dear.
So my son's a firefighter out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, volunteer. And he works for the Park Service, conservation officer, and I'm on patrol with him. He gets a call that there's a fire at one of the buildings that's one of 150 years old, and it's close to his station where they have the fire truck. So we beeline it to the station. He pulls in. I mean, we're going fast, and I'm going, he can't go this fast down these roads, and so we get there, and he's got his firefighting bag in the back of his truck or SUV, pulls it out, and I'm grabbing all his gear, his conservation, his guns and all that. Well, I'm not grabbing them, but he's putting them away, and he opens that bag and he puts all of his stuff on. Fire truck rolls out, and he's the only one. He's the only one that responded. So he hops on the fire truck, and the guy goes, "We gotta go," because this is only a half a block away. They get to the fire, and like I know what it takes. I know the commitment it takes to fight these fires. So he was the first responder, and he went in there and helped put out a fire that could have been potentially bad for that building. So just a cute little story of what it takes to be a volunteer. I mean,
Yeah, and
it's a great thing.
It kind of shows the difficulty, not just locally and across Minnesota, nationwide, of the amount of people that are willing to become part-time paid-on-call firefighters and volunteers.
Right.
It's difficult, and luckily for us, I mean, we were able to get 5 new ones this fall, and 4 of them are going through class starting in January. We have one of them that's finishing up right now, so very fortunate. Turnover is high, but as long as we can keep pulling them in and putting them through training, we're doing okay.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right. So I was kind of fearful for my son, he pulls out and he's the only one on the truck.
I thought you were going to say he deputized you. And got in there and got a taste of it.
I probably could have.
Next time.
City manager.
Mayor, Council, thank you. The next item that we have is our Metropolitan Council, our water efficiency grant approval. Jason, our finance director, will come up and speak to that again. This was an item that we had discussed briefly at our workshop this evening. And again, apologize to our viewers for our technical problems. Our vendor will be out here on site tomorrow to hopefully finish the installation and sort out the remaining issues that we have here.
All right, with that, good evening, Mayor and Council. In July 30th, actually, of this year, I received an email from the Metropolitan Council alerting us that the state legislature had awarded the Metropolitan Council $750,000 for water conservation programs. They held a meeting at the end of July that staff attended and came back and recommended that we apply for the grant. There was a maximum request of $50,000 per municipality. We applied for that full amount and have been awarded $19,000. With that, the city is required to contribute $6,340 and a 75-25 matching split. With that, the Met Council requires that any of these programs that the purchaser or the resident is required to fund a portion of the cost of the product. With this, the staff is recommending that we focus on toilets to begin with. That's one of the eligible products, and see how the program goes, and then potentially take a look at some of the other products that are available for rebate if the toilets don't take off the way we're expecting. With that, we're limiting the rebate to $200 per account. It's for only owner-occupied properties, and we're also recommending that it be in the form of a utility bill credit rather than a check physically being mailed out. With that, the program lasts until June of 2022. It's in the city's best interest, if approved, to expedite releasing those funds as quickly as possible, as the Met Council, at their own discretion, can pull back those funds at any time. There also is an option, if we use all the funding that's available, that we can ask the Met Council if any municipalities haven't used the funding they've been provided. There are 40 municipalities that have been approved for this grant, so it looks like a number of metro municipalities are involved in this, so we're not alone. It looks like many are interested in these water conservation programs.
Any questions for Jason?
With the presentation that Jason had, we look for your approval. This is something that we see as, not only as a conservation saving, but also an improvement to homes in our community. North St. Paul is an old community, and so this is something that I think is going to be widely used, as we've seen in other communities that had done this previously. The funds go quickly.
Good. So at this time, motion to approve the award of the Met Council 2019 to 2022 Water Efficiency Grant and authorize execution of the agreement by the city manager. So moved by Councilmember Sonic.
I'll second your.
Second by Councilmember Walczak. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Next item that we have is the 2545 Division Street. It's the former BP gas station. It's your consideration to purchase that property. It's a property that's been vacant and in disrepair for a number of years. We've had code enforcement interactions with it ongoing over the years, and tank removal and things of that sort. Our Economic Development Authority has recommended that we pursue the purchase of the blighted property. This property is located basically in our front door of our community. Highly visible, highly trafficked area, so it's something that we started pursuing. The current owner has owned the property since 2006. They purchased the property at that time for $475,000. I had initially made an offer of $300,000, was countered at $375,000 on the purchase of the property. And after continued negotiations with them, we've settled at a price of $340,000 for the purchase of the property. Ramsey County, on the 2020 estimated tax market value, has the property valued at $413,500. If you approve this purchase, what our use would be, our goal would be to demo the existing building that's boarded up there. We would demo the building, finish removing the remaining concrete curb, light poles, things like that sort. In the spring, we would basically topsoil and restore the area to green space, and the property would be held for future use for highway right-of-way with the improvements for Highway 36 and 120. At that point, we would look to sell the property for right-of-way then with MnDOT. It's unknown at this point because it's very early on in that, but it's unknown how much right-of-way, or if it would actually end up taking the entire lot. Our assumption is the entire piece would likely be taken, because after taking right-of-way, it would likely leave an unbuildable piece of property. But at this point, we don't have that determined, but this would help keep costs down for that project in the future, so that some unnecessary improvements aren't done and then have to be removed at a later date. So with that, if you have any questions, we'd recommend approval.
Any questions for Scott? Councilmember Sonic.
I have a couple of questions. One is, so when the 36-120 project does happen, would we then sell that property to the state, or so we could recoup some of those funds, if not all of them?
Correct.
And then the second question is, so I really love the idea that we can get rid of a boarded up building right at our doorstep, as you mentioned, and just turn it into green space. But I'm wondering have you had any thoughts in the intervening years between now and when that 36-120 project is done? Is there any potential for that space to even put, is it off the trail to have kind of some park benches, or is it a welcome to North St. Paul sign? Or, I mean, is there anything that can be done in that space that you've had any thoughts of so far?
I guess we haven't, planned anything of that sort, but that certainly is a possibility, and especially if we look at or think about doing that, if we do it, keep it obviously away from the highway. So if it's something that we do, it may be something that is able to stay there in the future, because like I say, the likelihood of the right-of-way that we'll take will end up leaving an unbuildable parcel there in the future. But yes, with the business that's there located next door and the trail access, it could very well become somewhat of an easy rest stop area in addition to our Rotary Park that we have within the community.
Right. Yep. Okay. Thanks.
And I think you mentioned, Councilmember Sonic, that's kind of the key point is it's a gateway into our community. Yeah. And like you say, it's a boarded up building, and it's been that way for a long time. So, yeah. Councilmember Walzak.
He kind of covered me.
Okay.
Said
Councilmember Thorson.
question, because naturally, once the word gets out that the city took action and purchased it, it's going to be, well, when is the building coming down? So is there a time frame on that demo work, or is it going to be on hold till the spring, or?
No, we would move ahead with the demo as soon as possible. I mean, obviously, we've got to do the closing and title work and all those types of things. So our goal is the reason I'm bringing this to you this evening and asking for your approval to complete and close on the transaction is where there's a possibility we could get it done by the end of the year, and obviously we wouldn't have another meeting before that time. It's uncertain with the title work that needs to be done, and I'm also wanting to follow up on any of the environmental work that they've had done so that we can get copies of that and hopefully a letter of non-association and those types of things that we can get with the property. Unlike others, we usually end up having to do the cleanup. In this case, the tanks have been removed previously, and they're in the closing stages of closing the site for leaks, so we want to get that information. But in answer to the demo site information, we would demo the building as soon as we can and get control of the property and weather permitting. It's not something we'll wait till spring. The restoration work would take place in the spring, but, and maybe some of the blacktop and things like that will have to come out in the spring. But we would get down everything we can to get rid of that eyesore.
I do have a question in regards to, is there any residual value to any parts of that station? They had a car wash. Are we able to maybe recoup any?
I don't think so. I think actually most of that's already been removed because it was said to be left for more of a garage type space. You know, if the building was going to be repurposed for attempt to be repurposed for like a car lot or something like that, they were just going to use the garage. But the building has been vacant and unheated and uncared for a number of years. Most of the things are, if they're not frozen, damaged, or something like that, you know, and the windows have been broke out and boarded up, I don't believe there's anything of to be salvaged, but we would certainly look at that.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, the motion to, see if I can read this right, motion for the city manager to enter into a formal purchase agreement and complete the transaction for the purchase of 2545 Division Street North in the amount of $340,000 plus closing costs and taxes. Is there a motion? So moved by Councilmember Sonic, second by Councilmember Peterson. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. City manager.
Mayor, Council, the next item up, I hope, is our city engineer, Morgan Dolly, with his presentation on the 2020 Street and Utility Improvement Project feasibility study.
Thank you, Scott, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
How did you get it to work?
Duct tape. But we do have it working here. So this item here before you tonight is a bit of a review on something that the council has previously been presented on. This is the receipt of an updated feasibility report for the proposed 2020 Street and Utility Improvement Project as contemplated within the city's capital improvement plan. Again, this was previously received by the council, and then council directed the engineer to provide an updated version, which we're here to present to you here tonight, that includes some additional scope items, some corresponding maintenance improvement projects, which I'll talk about in more detail, and also some additional adjacent properties. So without further ado, this map on your screen here includes the project scope. The areas in yellow is the main core primary project area for street and utility reconstruction. So that's 7th Avenue between 3rd Street and 1st Street, and portions of 2nd Street adjacent, and also now new 1st Street, that first southern segment just south of 7th Avenue. In red are some additional roadway maintenance areas that are contemplated to be concurrently completed. Those would be non-accessible, similar in past precedents to what the city has done on 15th and Spirit this last construction season as a maintenance overlay on those roadway portions. So that's extending north on 2nd to kind of the frontage road there, and also 4th Avenue just north of the condos. And then in blue, south of 7th Avenue, there's 2 segments of alleys that, again, concurrently with this project, from a maintenance standpoint, would be reconstructed and repaved as well, too. They're current paved alleys, so they're not unimproved, they're improved, but this would be an opportunity for the city to bring them back up to new condition as a part of this project. Some other just review of overall improvements. Again, I mentioned pavement reconstruction, new concrete curb on the reconstruct roadways. There's an opportunity to replace and sidewalks as existing, and also make some sidewalk extensions. We're in conformance with the downtown revitalization master plan, installing some plantings and medians and pedestrian improvements, as I mentioned, alleys. And as far as some of the underground work, it's going to be similar to past projects where we reconstruct, replace old water main, install new water main, including services to adjacent properties, and taking a look at the sanitary sewer lining or replacing old manholes that need upgrading as well too. And finally, and this is a big one compared to past projects, improving the drainage characteristics of the roadway on 7th Avenue. Currently, there's very limited, if any, storm sewer between 1st and 3rd Street on 7th Avenue. A lot of the drainage is conveyed in ditches on the roadway side, so not a full urban condition. So this would be an opportunity to upgrade that runoff and provide connections to the existing in-place storm sewer system for the city to help with the drainage and get that away from the road edge, which will help lengthen the life of the roadway. So I mentioned the downtown master plan or revitalization plan. So that was a big design consideration here, as previously discussed with the council. That conversion to an urban street, again, including landscape medians. The graphic on your screen here does show kind of that center median concept, 2 through lanes on either side of that center median, but also expanded an additional on-street parking, which does not currently exist in portions of the roadway as well. Bringing our stormwater up to current design standards and meeting current existing watershed rules and potential credits if we can get those through the permitting process to help us with future projects as well too. There is also on this next slide the consideration for a future roundabout or intersection improvement. So that coordination with Ramsey County with South Ave, County Road B is the roadway authority for that roadway. It does take a bit of heavy coordination with Ramsey County. We are still currently in the middle of that. I don't anticipate to be totally through that conversation probably until the first half of 2020, but I'll bring that back to council at that time once we've got more information. You can also see in this graphic some of those center medians which have gaps in them to facilitate existing driveway access without limiting right turns or left turns in and out of the existing driveways for residences along that area. And also some of the sidewalk extensions which will connect some of these areas on the western end of the project into downtown. The roundabout, again, as I mentioned, that's an ongoing concept discussion with Ramsey County. So what is proposed for construction in 2020 would not include the roundabout. So we simply want to get some concurrence and early approvals, or at least aligned with what Ramsey County might be thinking and approving of for a future intersection improvement, knowing that that might be delayed until after future redevelopment in this area. The Anchor North site, for example, is complete or almost complete. So that would be several years out into the future. This next graphic shows our storm sewer network. So those are underground pipes that convey rainwater and drainage throughout the city. And I'll just bring your attention to this is something new with the updated feasibility. That parcel that's outlined in purple on the far right-hand side, so that's east of First Street, south of 7th Avenue, kind of behind Reflex Medical, if that gives you some perspective. That is a city-owned parcel that's been identified for some drainage improvements. We are currently designing something that will provide some local benefit in terms of flood relief, and that has been a historically flood-prone area. And it will also improve some of the characteristics drainage within the alley there, which has been problematic over time. So that is kind of a nice addition to this project, and will also provide not only kind of interim short-term benefit for just minor rainfall events, but we will be connecting that drainage basin on that property through to some deeper storm sewer north through, I guess, the old First Street right-of-way, which is now green space. If you remember, in 2011, First Street was relocated through the, I forget the name of the break place. Hillcrest, that's right, Hillcrest Break. So we realigned kind of that portion of First Street, which is now North St. Paul Drive, just north of 7th Avenue. That left what is now kind of green space, so we will be providing some additional piped connection from this drainage basin through into our storm sewer just north of there. Just a review of costs. So these, again, were updated for some of the concurrent work, both reconstruction and also maintenance work, to bring the total overall project cost to $5.6 million. Special assessments, again, as proposed within the city's current assessment policy, as preliminarily calculated within the feasibility report. The average residential assessment is about $4,350 per property. For some of the condos and townhouses, approximately $1,000 per unit is the preliminary estimate. Again, per policy, that higher $96 per front foot rate does apply for the commercial, industrial, and multifamily properties. And the map shows highlighted indication of the adjacent properties that are affected by proposed assessments. As an update, just to bring your attention to that, some of the Penn Place condos, or that Penn Place condo area on the northwest quad of the intersection of 1st and 7th Avenue, that is now included, as well as the parcel on the southeast quad of the same intersection, which was not included in the prior version of the feasibility report, but is now a part of the update. Based on the fact that 1st Street south of 7th Avenue is now being reconstructed all the way around the corner there. Again, part of the drainage improvements and part of the reconstruction of that portion of the roadway. Schedule-wise, we're still on track with the originally proposed schedule. Just procedurally here, we have built in the receipt of this updated feasibility study, presentation to council tonight, and really the action before you by resolution is to receive the feasibility and then set a public hearing date for the second meeting in January, which would be January 21st at 6:30 p.m. So we would propose that council hold a public hearing at that date, should the resolution be accepted and adopted here tonight. Again, primary construction will be during the construction season of 2020, with some minor cleanup, final lift of asphalt paving finished in 2021. With that, again, the resolution is in front of you in your packet for consideration to receive the feasibility, set the public hearing, and although this was done before, authorizing preparation of plans and specifications for this project. So with that, I'll stand for any questions the council might have.
Any questions for Morgan? So the roundabout, they did all that gas work this summer, Excel, and it looks like it's real close to the road. Is it going to be?
So I had several extensive conversations with representatives from Excel Gas while they were in the middle of the design and the construction for their project, because we knew that this was potentially going to be coming. Staff did the best they possibly could to provide preliminary layouts and preliminary information, and nothing significantly different than what's being presented here today. So they had the best available information at their disposal to make their decisions in terms of relocating their facilities at that time. I will state for the record, and it's documented in emails, that Excel did make some decisions knowing that roundabout could be constructed somewhere in the 2023, 2024 timeframe, which I think is consistent with what I've communicated with council in the past. And they know that maybe some relocation of their facilities will be necessary at that time, should the roundabout be considered to be moved forward, by the city and the county in some fashion, which we haven't really gotten to that point yet. But they know that the possibility is out there, and they did make that decision knowing full well that that was a possibility. So we did move some things around. There were some valves and some components that they were able to slide around the corner or move somewhat out of the footprint, or mostly out of the footprint of what we thought was going to be included with future roundabout construction. But again, they did make some decisions to not move everything. And I think that's fair, because we don't have all of the detailed design done at this time, and they're very familiar with this process in terms of making their facility improvements in advance of other public improvements. And so I suppose the city should trust their decision and know that they'll have to be partners in terms of any sort of utility coordination or relocation efforts that need to be made at that time.
Okay. One other question. Those are driving me nuts, those gas things. Do you know anything Do you know anything about
I have heard,
what we
I've
can
seen
do to pleasantly make them look
some
nice?
complaints about that. So I think I can check and we can bring back an update for council. What I think to be the case, based on our past progress meetings with Excel Gas as they were nearing the end of their project. The majority of the project is still ongoing, so they've finished mostly their facilities that exist in the city of North St. Paul, and next year their project continues on in Maplewood and St. Paul. But what I recall is that they did have some aesthetics things that they needed to complete on a few of their likely above ground components, right? Some of the valves and some of the things that we see above ground. So I can't state for certain exactly what is to happen, but what I recall them talking about is there's some, sandblasting and painting and things that may make them a little bit more amenable, but staff can certainly work to find out what kind of opportunities there are in terms of screening or other things that might help out with some of the concerns that we're hearing from the neighborhood.
Mayor, we do have meetings upcoming here right after the holidays in January to get back with Excel to talk about the noise issues that's going through the regulators. And they're louder now, obviously, than they probably would be in the summertime just because of the gas flow that's going through there. But not only the noise issues, but we've also got the aesthetics of the regulator building at South and Henry that we're going to be talking about with them up there. Not only the large pipe that's out of the ground up there now, but also the building itself, that it's a residential setting. It's not an industrial setting, and we want to have some definitely improvements that'll be pleasing to the neighborhood.
Because we didn't have these before.
No.
It wasn't there before, so I think it should be.
Yeah.
Definitely aesthetically looks nice.
Well, and I know the ones on South and 7th that were relocated.
My house.
Kind of that vacant parcel that's touching the state
Gateway.
trail. When they were on that residential side, a previous owner had put some fencing and landscaping up. And it was up for several years, and then I think they were told they needed to tear it all down because there's something where they can't be enclosed. There's some deal where they couldn't be enclosed, but I don't know what that means as far as any kind of screening, at least, just to kind of.
Well, and even if there's some wrap or something, but we've been in contact with our representative for the city, and they're going to schedule a meeting with us right after the holidays.
I know we digress a little bit. I just want to cover this because I think it's important.
Yep. Well, and even when you're asking about setting up for the future, so even M&I Townhomes, they had, even the landscaping that they put in the front of the building, they set that up to be outside of the area of where the roundabout would be potentially in the future. So trying to plan for that, definitely. And we, by the way, as long as we're talking in the subject area up there, we had our first water main break this winter season on South Avenue, right in front of the townhomes there on 7th, or on South Avenue between 7th Avenue and McKnight. So that section, the repair was done, but then concrete was used as a temporary repair of this road surface, and then that'll reopen after that's cured.
Any other questions, Morgan? If not, motion for resolution receiving the city engineer's feasibility study, ordering preparation of plans and specifications, and calling for a public hearing on the 2020 street and utility improvement project. And I think we can set that date tonight at January 21st.
6:30 p.m. here at City Hall, yep.
6:30. So this time, motion?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Thorson. Second by Councilmember Sonic. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. City Manager Dudek.
Mayor, Council, next item is our membership with Washington Suburban Cable Commission. If you recall, back in October, we had submitted a letter to the Cable Commission, which had to be in by October 15th, to designate our desire to be removed from the commission, and we had submitted that prior to that date. At this time, I'd like to have council's consideration to withdraw or rescind that letter. We have up until December 31st to do so. Your request to withdraw that, and we would stay a member of the Suburban Cable Commission, and also consider, if you approve this, that after the first of the year, with our appointments the first of the year, we would look to appoint Tara Heiser as our representative to the Cable Commission, and really work to affect some improvements and change to the Cable Commission. It's our desire that I think most all members realize that it's a commission that's been in place since the early 80s, and technology and cable and everything is changing dramatically, and the commission needs to change to meet those times. So with your approval, we would look to rescind our letter and stay a member of the commission for the next year, and then we'd come back to you with a new appointment for January 7th meeting to appoint Tara Heiser as our representative.
Any questions for city manager or discussion? Councilmember Sonic.
Well, I think I still have questions about what exactly we hope to accomplish out of this, and you know, we talked earlier today about what does success look like, but I think I'll vote to support this because I trust the people that we have, and I trust the direction of our city manager, especially, and his recommendation to appoint Tara Heiser to work on the commission. So I just hope we don't know what the positive change might be yet, but I do hope that 10 months from now we can come back and say there was some positive change that is tangible.
And that's really all I can say. I mean, I can't look you and tell you that this is what we're going to do, because I don't know what that is at this point. All I can tell you is that, as I stated earlier, that the commission and what it started out with in the early 80s does not match the needs of today, and we will do our best to make that happen and to make those changes. And if we can't do that, that's satisfactory to us as a member city, then we would remove ourselves next year.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, motion to resolution rescinding the City of North St. Paul's intent to withdraw from the RWSCC JPA, authorized staff to provide written notice to the Secretary of the RWSCC Commission of this intent. And the RWSCC is the Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Communications Commission. So at this time, motion.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Motion made by Councilmember Sonic. Second by Councilmember Walzak. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So we're back in it, and I think we're making a good decision here. I think the relationships that we have with our community cities, and I think we're going to come out of this very positive. So, thank you.
Just to provide a little comment that this is obviously something that we've been looking at and evaluating all year, and initially the decision to pull out, was seemingly obvious, and after that decision was made, I think is what sparked us to get to this point that other member communities reached out and they're working on getting a plan together. But as Councilmember Sonic stated, we just don't have that right now, and we're under the gun to make a decision, and we don't want to be calling special meetings on New Year's Eve to deal with something like this that seemingly is going to be in good hands with Tara. He's got a whole career of experience, and I feel comfortable handing the reins over to him so he can help resolve some of these issues, and hopefully there is some good that comes from this, but ultimately only time will tell.
Yep. Okay. Reports of city manager and departments.
Mayor, Council, just a couple items. I mentioned earlier the water main break that the Public Works crews worked on this past weekend. Also, we've started the demo of the house that we recently acquired on First Street, just off of 7th Avenue, that will be used for future ponding site for the upcoming street project and other flooding issues that we've had in the area down there. So that demo and site clearing has started with that. Also, the student-built house program, with this year being the move of the house from the Old City Hall site. That is back underway after some delay. The intent is to dig the foundation tomorrow and get that prepared for move. Right now, we're looking at Monday moving the house with the possibility, and I'll just throw this out there, the possibility of doing the house move early Sunday morning. Because again, we're moving a house. We're not just hooking a trailer on and going. So moving a house down 7th Avenue and getting it in place. The intention, so that everybody's aware, we will, planning on building a ramp. So we will back the house in off of 7th Avenue into the foundation. So we'll excavate for the foundation, build a ramp off of 7th Avenue, back the house in. The house mover will then raise the house in the foundation up above 2-3 feet above where the finished foundation walls will be. We'll have the footings. The footings will be poured on Thursday, final preparation on Friday, and then the house would be moved in. Once the house is moved in, then the foundation walls would be poured and the house would be lowered back down to that. So this is a unique opportunity for the Student Build program. We've done remodeling, we've done new construction mostly, but doing a house move is really something unique, and they're looking forward to this program and doing that. So it's been a great program with them, and allows us to do a lot of different opportunities and improvements in our community. So that's ongoing, and then the Anchor North site that we've been watching this fall with the pad ready soil correction going on down there. The work is finished, and you see that there was actually a straw that was, or mulch that was blown over the entire site. That's part of the requirements from the watershed district. So basically that project is done for the winter, and bids were released now. There was just, we had our posting in the newspaper this past Sunday for bids for the upcoming work in the spring for the road and utility street work. So that project is continuing. I'm working with the end users on their purchase agreements. We've got purchase agreements back now that we're reviewing from the buyers, and everything is looking good for a busy construction season in 2020. Also, the last update would be with the Old City Hall site. We're continuing to work with that. They're working on finishing up some of their final documents and pricing and putting things together. We'll have a final agreement that will come back to you at council, but they're looking at a February start on the project in the downtown. You know, earlier on, we were initially thinking, late November, early December, but just all the planning and efforts to get in place, and also looking at weather to, rather than starting, in December, the heart of the cold, wait till February to get started, and then we're kind of on the downhill from there for heating, construction, and things like that. So right now, the plan is for that project will start in February. Anything else, let me know, but lots going on and continues to be. Look forward to a busy upcoming 2020.
Thank you. Reports of council, commissions, and committees. Councilmember Sonic.
I have nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Walzak.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Councilmember Peterson.
Just have one thing, the League of Minnesota Cities, we had our last board meeting, and the annual conference has always encompassed 4 communities, and now it's just gonna be Duluth and Rochester. St. Paul will be the last time this coming year, and then they took St. Cloud and St. Paul out of the mix. So it's just they don't have the hotels and stuff, so we voted on that. That's all I have. It's expensive.
Councilmember Thorson.
EDA met on December 10th and just had discussion on the BP station that we took action on, and just kind of ongoing development opportunities, nothing really important to report.
Okay, good. General business, Councilmember Sonic.
I have nothing. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, or Happy Wednesday if you don't celebrate anything.
Councilmember Walzak.
I have no reports, but just to wish everybody a blessed and Merry Christmas and whatever you celebrate. Wednesday.
Councilmember Peterson.
Well, I thought the holiday hop was great. I felt bad we didn't advertise it in December. But I think all the merchants were happy. There was a lot of activity going on. It was a good event, and I'm sure they're going to continue with it. Trolley rides were a big hit with my grandkids. So it was good. So I want to wish everybody a happy holiday and a healthy, happy new year. Thank you.
Councilmember Thorson.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.
Councilmember.
And I'll just follow that up again with the comments of upcoming 2020. But thank you, council, for the opportunity and a busy 2019 and looking for a big year in 2020.
I was going to say the same thing. I'd like to say that being in this position this past year, it's been challenging, balancing between family, business, and council. I mean, it's a lot of support from you guys, so I want to thank everybody for their support, and I wish everybody the same, and very happy Merry Christmas and blessed holidays. So at this time, a motion to adjourn. So moved by Councilmember Sonic, second by Councilmember Walzak. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion, we are adjourned.